Alright, what we got here is a water pump off of a VTX 1300, and I've taken it off the bike. This is basically how it sits in the bike. You've got the main shaft with the tongue and groove. This actually mates up with the oil pump from the right side of the bike. This water pump's on the left side of the bike. So basically that's how it sits. Got your lower radiator hose that connects here and goes parallel to the frame. So when you take this apart, actually when you take this out, because this shaft is sitting in the lower case of the engine, that's where the oil comes out. So it's going to be very hard to see, but basically describing this, in the center this goes all the way down, but it is pretty much sealed. If you look down in that, I'm not sure if I can get a flashlight down in there and have that pick up, but down in there at the bottom it is basically sealed off. So there, you might be able to see it down in there, but it is sealed. So there's, at least from what I can tell, it's totally sealed. There might be, it's possible, it's hard to tell, but there might be an inlet down there at the bottom on the sides of the cylinder down at the bottom, and that might be where the oil circulates through and then back up to these 3 points here. So you got these 3 little cavities right here, and as I was explaining before, one of the cavities actually has a hole in it. It's this one over here. There is a real small hole. You're probably not going to be able to pick it up, but there's a very tiny hole down in there. So the way I understand this to work, you've got your propeller. I'm going to take this off. This is just the cover. Put that down. So you've got your propeller, which obviously is turning like so. And right back behind here is probably what they're referring to as the mechanical seal. It's going to be hard to see, but right back behind there, that must be where the seal is. And of course, I'll probably crack this thing open at some point, see if I can get this apart, but it's obviously not going to be easy to take apart. But that mechanical seal has to be back behind there, because you can see down in here, there is basically right behind that, and it's not turning. So that must be the bearing that Mark was talking about, that mechanical bearing that turns with this shaft. So when that's going through, if that seal fails, this is where the weep hole is, right there. So you can see right here is the propeller. You've got your mechanical seal there. If that fails, it's going to come out the weep hole. Sorry, this thing is should have cleaned this out, but it's all boogered up from road grime. Anyway, so that's where the weep hole is, and the link that, I think it was IndieX that posted the link talking about that weep hole, that allows either coolant to come out if the mechanical seal fails there, or it could let oil out if this internal seal fails, which is what I can't get to. So, as a test, I want to squirt some, I've got just some regular 3-in-1 oil. I want to squirt some oil down in this, excuse me, down in this port that has the hole in it, which is right here. So I'm going to pour a little bit of oil down in there. I just want to see where that stuff goes, if it actually goes anywhere. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil, squirt that down in there, and see if we can figure out where it goes. So got a pretty good amount in there. I'm gonna use my flashlight to see. Yep, I can see it down in there. So it's gonna be hard for you guys to see and pick that up, but there is fluid down there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this shaft, see if anything comes through. And I'm turning it, and there is nothing coming out the bottom. Which, by the way, my water pump was not failing. I just decided to go ahead and change it out, mainly for preventive maintenance. So I don't think either of these seals had failed. So I don't know if anything's going to come out as I'm turning this. Definitely nothing coming out the bottom. My hand is dry. I'm going to look down the center and see if I see any oil. And I can't tell. Still looks like it's dry down the center of that shaft. And I can still see the oil over here where I poured it in. So I'm not sure what that hole is for, if it's just like an internal, maybe that lubricates the oil side seal somehow. But yeah, I'm cranking on this thing and nothing's coming out, at least the bottom. So I'm going to pour that out. Yep, there comes the oil that I poured in. Guess I put in more than I thought. Alright, so I got all that out. Now to test my theory further, I'm going to pour some right down in the center. Let me put a little bit in there. 3M stuff's cheap. Alright. So I got that down in the center. Yep, I can see it. It's in there. I'm going to rotate this thing. See if it actually goes out and into one of these other cavities. Guess I should probably turn it both ways in case there's a one-way valve in there or something, but it's definitely not coming down on the inside, on the coolant side, where the propeller is. And the oil is still down in there, and I don't see anything on this little side here, so I honestly don't know what that is. But I'm pretty sure they're sealed from each other. I guess if both seals failed, then technically some of that can come in. So there's all my oil. That's yep. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'd have to crack that thing open, see if I could figure out where that stuff, where the seal is. But as you can see, it's definitely not going through anywhere. So I guess the next point is to take a hacksaw to this thing and crack this thing open. It's not going to be very easy. I don't really have any other tools to crack that open. I'm not sure how else you can pop that off. But I compared the turning of this old one to the new one that I received, and they basically feel about the same. So, well, like I said, I'm going to change it out just for preventive maintenance. I don't want to have to get back into this thing for another 100,000 miles if possible. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's basically the gist of this piece here. So that's got to have the mechanical seal on this side and probably another mechanical seal inside here for the oil side. But yeah, this whole piece right here is definitely inside That's why they have this O-ring that mates up with the case. So this whole piece is basically in the oil. And so the oil obviously is going to pass through the center piece, and it's also going to pass through these three, or at least fill up in these three areas. So, oh, there's actually, yeah, pay attention to that. That might be how it gets lubricated. There's a little notch here. So I'm sure the oil gets down in there too. Maybe that's where, I didn't really pay attention. That might be where the oil goes. Because it's very hard to tell down in the middle of this thing. It's hard to tell if there's like some kind of cavity where the oil can escape from. But the center of that is way down. It's almost like it's at the very bottom of this piece here, because it's pretty far down there. That's actually where it looks like it's going. So it goes significantly further down than these three little cavities here. These three cavities, they only go to about right here. So you can see the difference there. That center piece goes all the way down. Those three little crevices only go here. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to study up more about that and see if I can figure out how these things really work and what those holes are for. There's no hole on these two, either one of these, but there is a tiny hole, little bore that goes down in there. And also, when you're turning, it's going to be hard to see. I've got a lot of gunk in here, but when you're turning the shaft and looking through the weep hole, you can actually see what looks like, well, there's something rotating in there. It's hard to tell what it is. Maybe it's another smaller propeller type thing like this, but I can see it and it'll pass that hole. So it's going to be hard to pick up on the video camera, but if I turn this and I look down with the light, I can actually see something passing it every few, every few small turns. You can just see something passing. So there's got to be something else internal there that's on the back side of this. So anyway, I hope that helps out explaining it a little bit more. Obviously this is the coolant, and then you've got a gasket inside that little groove there. So when these two pieces made up, that gives you your seal. And that just seals right up. So it took me a while to figure out where that weep hole is, and it was basically because I had all kinds of road grime on here. Obviously this sits like this, so with it sitting like that, the weep hole is right underneath there. It's right next to this little notch. And I had all kinds of grime on there, and there's actually still some grime right in the hole itself. So I couldn't quite see where it was. At first I was thinking it was one of these indentions here, but these are nothing more than just marks in the casting. As you can see, they've got a mark over here, and those marks made up, so, or notches, whatever you want to call them. There's two on this side, two over here, one down here. But with that gasket in there, obviously it's not going to leak from there. If it does, then I guess that gasket would be bad. You could just take the cover off without pulling this whole thing out. So anyway, hope that helps you guys out. And I'm going to start soaking the clutch plates tonight. Let those soak overnight. And then the plan is to start assembling the clutch tomorrow. And we'll go from there.